Good evening. This is the Rutland Town Planning Commission, and it's June 23rd, 2022. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under
under
God,
God,
with liberty and justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
Okay, present tonight, we've got Howard Burgess, Andy McVeigh, Jim Hall, and Mary Beth Poley, and Norm Cohen. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Everybody can vote. Unless somebody comes in the last minute or late. Okay. So let's start with the approval of the agenda this evening.
Move to
Move
approve
we
the
appro-
agenda as written.
Second it.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, no public here and no public on Zoom. So we'll move down to new business and really not much there. Unless someone wants to add something at this point, but kind of late since we approved the agenda. So we'll move down to old business. And the select board knows that we want to run some stuff by the town attorney, such as the questionnaire that Andy and Jerry and Howard worked on, I think. So we're all cool with that. I just wanted to make sure if we're ready to go with the questionnaire. It was,
I made some revisions to it, if everybody, we can. And just some small things, but just adding for under sheds, and actually in both of them, adding a foundation type. Basement, I put down basement, slab, none, or other. Same thing in garages and sheds. And I would think even if we want to modify this at a subsequent date, right? We have the core of it here would certainly show any legal flaws,
mhm,
or at least I would hope that's how it would work.
right,
And I think actually certainly it can be made so that it can be online and we could revise it to make it as user friendly as we can possibly make it.
I've got a major question for you on that. From the point where it says other, please describe, all the way through to the end. Personally, I feel that this is all information that's going to be gathered up by the listers at some point anyway.
This form is designed specifically to help the listers. That's really is the
But they do that
is the point.
They do that for every single property as a matter of state law. Isn't that right, Howard?
Yes, yes, you're right. No, if anything, to simplify, whatever we put in front of somebody, we need to make it easy for them to fill out. Not that they're gonna start scratching and digging and working. I think it's gotta be, as short and sweet as possible, but make it comfortable for them. If it's checking off a box or something, but you bring up a good point. I mean, they're gonna look at other and for all other categories and things, and we may be going just a little bit too deep with this. You're right, Jim. We we pick it all up. I mean, basically, we need to know that there's a new house going up. And a lot of times, they don't know exactly what everything is anyways, but, the more information, the better, but I think we need to make it friendly to them so that they will.
Mhm.
Well, those first 6 items, I think are getting the information that we would need to say that there's something coming in the works. And that was my understanding that was the reason for this whole thing to begin with.
So the 5 there, the house, garage, shed, barn, and other,
What's that now?
you're looking at house, garage, shed, barn, and other. You're just looking at those.
To me, if we have to send Bill out to get this information, it's a duplication of effort, because when the lister cards are finalized after this project is done, it's going to have all this information anyway, and it's what the listers are the ones responsible for it.
Isn't there some gap between when some construction is done and when the listers are out there or even find out about it?
Oh, the building permit should be the start of everything. I mean, we should know, the town should know that there's a project in the works. And a lot of times, you never know when it's gonna get built. I mean, I know there's a spot on there that puts when they think they're gonna start and finish and stuff like that, but most important thing is that we know that there's a project going on and that,
I've got a couple of other points that I think should be brought out too. Removal of a structure, let's say that the structure might possibly be on the historical identity list.
Jim, excuse me, please. I don't mean to be rude. Barbara, I'm having trouble with sound, and I will come over in person.
Okay.
So, am I free to go?
Yeah.
To me, this is important because with no zoning, people have been pretty much accustomed to doing such things without notifying anybody unless they're good citizens and do have a particular caring for historical items. So my question is, would it be advisable to incorporate the preservation of historical buildings in this thing if they were going to remove a structure and replace it with another one, or just remove it and have a vacant lot? I think either way, it probably, I don't know of anything that's going on like that, but I suppose it could.
if they're removing something, they quickly usually get to us because they want it off the grand list. If they're taking a swimming pool out or a building out or something, we hear about that. They'll say, we got rid of it. We don't even need a permit or anything, but I mean, they need to get it off, get it out of their assessment. So the removals are pretty much automatic.
So how much, go ahead, Andy.
I was just gonna say, I don't see how there's no permit required to remove a building in town, so there really isn't any reason to include it on this. If it was a historic building, it comes under some other statutes, but again, that's outside of the purview of what we can do. Oh, now,
I believe it
what
is.
were you gonna say, Barbara? I'm sorry.
I was just gonna ask, Howard, how much of a duplication would this be?
We wouldn't pay much attention to, I mean,
I don't see Bill going out and collecting this information. This would be, hopefully it would be voluntary information that would come in, with the permit.
like the permit we got now is just the bare bones, but it tells us that somebody's building something and we're gonna go out and measure it from top to bottom and everything that's involved with it and pick it up, because in detail on the lister's card, everything gets plugged in, a sketch is made and everything of the property. We just need to know that there's a project out there that we
Right.
need to visit and appraise. That's the main thing.
Right.
And so that's why I say, I don't think we should go too far with, at this point, of having them make out too much, in detail about it, but if it works, okay, if we can, I think we should, if anything, simplify, make it easy, an easy form for them to just check off the whatevers, but we don't really need to know, or we don't need to know, how many fixtures they're gonna have and stuff like that. We go through and all that stuff is counted up. A lot of times construction changes. They plan something and things change as they go along, and we don't want them to make it, I guess, make them think if they put something on paper here that they got to build it that way, because things can vary, things can change.
Well, do you think we just sort of drop this, Howard, then? I'm just,
Well, the main thing is by getting that permit that we've got now out there and getting it, when it comes in, they'll draw a sketch. There's a blank page and, some of them, some do, some don't. They'll draw a sketch and some of them are, very brief, some more detailed than others. The main thing is for us to know that there's a
Yeah.
project out there. That's the real key to it, that there's a building project, that something's that we've got to add to the grand list.
well, I think the main thing is we have to get that header in the town website that we discussed.
Yeah, and the penalties to show,
No, but so it says building permits are required on there, not a little subsection the way it is now. Right, if we Bill, can you bring that up for us, the town?
I sent a blurb, in fact, I don't remember what it was, I put a blurb in the circle this past time about building permits, I did it just to remind people that
Mm.
they're required. And if you
Hmm.
don't do it, that there's penalties, because now the town has started to enforce the penalty part of it, and that's what's gonna make this thing work, now that people realize that, they've got to do it.
Yeah, and that was the select board's, probably most prominent comment about this is like, can there be teeth that we can add? And will that work?
Can I share something like that?
Absolutely.
Okay. I think part of it, I'll just share like a little story that I don't know if it's really applicable, but maybe like 4 or 5 years ago when we were getting our farm business kind of up and running, I called the town office and asked, if we put up a farm stand, what kind of permitting, building permit, whatever would be needed. And the person that I talked to said, well, we don't have zoning, we don't have building permits. So, go ahead with whatever. So I think part of it, I won't say who it was, or it was a few years ago, but I think part of it is, when people call in, just make sure that everyone is aware of it also, in addition to having it on the website.
Mhm.
If it was 5 or 6 years ago, then we didn't have permits.
Okay.
We weren't really, we didn't have a permit back then, so things have changed and I don't remember when they came out, but we got them for a few years.
Okay.
But
Cool.
We're just getting the word out is the main thing now.
Mhm.
But you're right. I mean, somebody calls in, they need to be give us some information, but now if they call in, the first thing they should be told is a permit. You need to submit a permit.
Mhm.
And like Andy says, you want to make it clear, I guess, online to make sure that they could see it. So I guess Bill's got something going here.
Well, that's the top of the homepage. So we've been kind of behind the scenes working to create like a frequently asked questions page. And that is definitely gonna be one of the things on there. The problem with calling it out on the homepage is if I called out everything that I was asked to on the homepage, there'd be nothing but a yellow banner for call outs. Like everybody, like I get so many requests. We put this on the banner, like it's the yellow banner is like where kind of like draws people to it. And that's easy to change, but I get a lot of requests to put things in that banner and like, let's call this out. So I understand what you mean. But if like I said, I can't just put everything there in big bold letters because otherwise everything would be in big bold letters and we wouldn't have anything
Well,
else there.
Just for a suggestion, Bill, scroll down a little bit to the blue box. Right, the one that says online tax payments.
Yeah.
If you added a line in there that said building permits,
Okay.
I think that would be an appropriate place for it.
We have links at the bottom to our permits and forms.
Where is that?
Right at the under our map.
But then you have to go through,
Yeah.
isn't there another step after that?
Oh, all the way down under the map. Okay.
Right
Quick
to the
links.
Permits and forms page.
Yep, I see it.
And then it's just all of the ones we have there. So that's under the various. So I'm all for making things easy to find and
Mhm.
navigate, and we've made a lot of changes to the site over the past 4 years that have made it a lot easier to use. It's hard to add everything everywhere, and so we can certainly look at that and see if that's something that we can do.
Pretty filled
The
out. right
fact that
there
it's in
now.
such fine print down at the bottom,
Yeah, I
at
never,
least it shows up on mine in very fine print.
I never make it down to the bottom usually,
So
unless I'm looking for a phone number.
under the government tab is the permits and forms. So it's it's one menu to get to the same page. So, when people call me, I direct it to them and I can email it to them and, but I'm not sure what we'd want to take out, but there's when we built this new version, it was with a lot of intent about keeping the home page without a lot of noise on it, without a lot of clutter on it. And so
Mhm.
we want to make sure if we put something on, we're gonna have to sacrifice, something's gonna have to come off. So it's like, what do we want to take off? So
So if somebody calls you, Bill, how do you direct them when you tell them to go to the webpage? What do you tell them to do?
I say that, so the easiest, you can go to the government tab and permits and forms, or go all the way to the bottom of the page and click on permits and forms, bring you to the same place. And I said, and that page has our water connection requests, has our sewer allocation requests, it has our building permit requests, everything's on that one page. So all the permits and forms that we have are all in one place. So we can, I think part of that will be helped by when we finally get through designing our like frequently asked questions page, because in those that apply, that we'll link it to that page. So somebody comes here and says, whatever, they go to that page and they can go right to it. So I got 2 calls today from 2 different people asking about our draft zoning document on our website. And it's unfortunately, I can't make it go away because it's not a website it's archived on something we don't own.
Huh.
So it's still out there, but people search for it and they find it and we get asked questions about it. So, and
The one that's like 15 years old?
Yeah. So if you Google Rutland Town zoning, it comes up. And I can't yet make it go away. So I'm still working on that, but because it's more of a distraction than anything, so.
Yeah. Well,
So we can, once we get it finalized, I mean, I think it seems to be working there. I mean, we get half a dozen to a dozen a month. I mean, we're getting them on a pretty regular basis. So, people are finding it and people are finding it without calling also. So about half of what we get are unsolicited. So, people are looking for it.
so, okay, so I guess the question is, is that going to be okay on the website? Leaving it from, where you can get at it from those 2 places. Do we need I guess there's 3 questions. Do we need the questionnaire? And what are we sending Kevin Brown, our attorney?
I know.
So what about the website?
We can, I can look at the design. I mean, that's gonna come after we, all we're gonna be really doing at this point is replacing the form that's there. So, we want to look at, it's hard to say call it out like something new because it's not something new, it's just updated. So we can look at the design and we can look at we'll get more traction by highlighting it on social media. We'll get 100 times the traction on there than we ever will putting it on the front page of the website. We really will. So we have posts that some of the more shared ones get 3,000 or 4,000 interactions, and that's more than we get in 6 months on the website. So
Mm.
there are ways to get the message out there. So yeah, we can. That's kind of the, after we finish it, we can figure that out too. That's and we can move it around as well. So
Okay, and what about the questionnaire?
Well, I'm just gonna make a motion then that we send this questionnaire to the attorney for review.
The entire questionnaire, plus what,
Well,
You brought
with
up-
revisions, yes.
is there a second?
Second.
And you're saying you send a permit and everything, the building permit, just the whole bit. You'll get everything, not just,
And the ordinance?
he'll get what we've got now.
Did you hear her? She said, and the ordinance also. That's what she said.
I don't know.
I can't hear you, Norm. I'm sorry.
Well, all I was asking is if Howard heard, Barbara said, and the ordinance, as if she were asking Howard, and it appeared that Howard didn't hear it, so I was just asking him if he did.
Well, you're not saying the order, we're talking now just about the building permit.
Well, this
Well, they're tied
questionnaire,
together,
No, building permit in this here.
yes,
and that they're-
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's
It's just-
also tied to that building notification ordinance, which has some extra language in there and probably should be cleaned up at the same time.
Mhm.
So, yeah, Norm.
Now, I don't see how you can get a fair reading from the attorney if you don't send the ordinance upon which this is based. So my suggestion is send the ordinance and these, and then he'll have the whole picture and decide if we need to change anything in the ordinance, A, because it's obsolete, or B, because it doesn't tie either clearly or correctly to this other information.
Okay, so there was a motion to include the questionnaire in what we send to the town attorney. Any other discussion about that? All those in favor of sending? Could we amend the motion, Andy, to include the ordinance
Yes,
as well?
yeah.
And who seconded it?
I did, and I'm comfortable with that, yes.
Okay. So everybody ready for that question? We'll send the questionnaire, the permit, and the ordinance to the town attorney. All those in favor?
I,
I,
Opposed? Okay.
Okay.
We'll do that.
oh, can you guys put the video on for the select board room? Thanks.
Okay, next on the agenda is work on other new ordinances, and I think our priority ones, in addition to the building notification, was something on firearms and noise, and perhaps something on very small farms in town. Is there anyone who would like to work on either one of those? We
sorry.
as we go forward with this work, there would be no I don't think we have any
anyone
time
wants to
frame.
work on firearms.
Okay, well, hearing all of that enthusiasm, why don't the next meeting, we'll just take a look at what we have in those two topic areas. I don't think there's much, but we'll see what is possible, and we'll work on it as a group, as a whole. Sound okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The energy survey, the select board did approve it with a couple additions. They want the first two questions on the survey to be, are you a town resident? Yes, no. Are you a town business? Yes, no. Other than that, it's okay to go. And there's some discussion about the timing of it. I think the consensus is, and I kind of like this too, is to pretty much hold off until the townwide celebration toward the end of August to get it out there, because the next circle publication is not until probably late September before it comes out or is in mailboxes well into September. So maybe something like late August to Halloween, something like that, having it out there when people are back and more serious about things. So so it's ready to go. I just don't think we should drag it out all summer long and into the fall. That sound good?
I got one suggestion on that, and for some reason, I couldn't get a clear print on my printer. This is the only thing that didn't come out clear. Maybe it was by design, I don't know. But I didn't find anything in there that referred to Efficiency Vermont.
I thought there was one reference to it. I hesitate to go back to the select board with this. And I think something like that, I think Norm has raised some questions too about whether we're saying enough about people can actually save money, save energy by some of these things. We're not highlighting the economic value as much. And my suggestion to that was that maybe we do that in the publicity, rolling this out.
Well, I didn't go into a lot of detail on my suggestion here. I just put in as a question, have you had any contact with Efficiency Vermont
In what regard, Jim?
for upgrading your
Oh, as a question.
installation, for suggestions on what you should perhaps put in for heating equipment and this sort of thing.
Yeah, there is a bit of a danger there, and that would be not including everyone who has services. And, there's also Brock. There's also NeighborWorks of Western Vermont. And there are state programs that keep rolling out and keep changing. So it's kind of a moving target.
But it's to me, they're paying rebates on projects that people are involved with. And if that's the case, why wouldn't it be pointed out in this questionnaire? It just as a question.
And they're very active on TV commercials. You see them a lot now. They're
Very
quite
much
often
so.
they've got something promoting Efficiency Vermont. So, I mean, that's kind of the driving force right there is what they're doing. Certainly, like you said, the rebates and things that you get, that's a big part of it.
So I think I know the reasoning behind the questions, but we keep them general so that we don't leave anyone out. And that we just get a sense, are people interested in these sorts of things? And then we'll come back and say, okay, we've got a presentation by Efficiency Vermont and NeighborWorks, Heat Squad and all of that. The specifics would come out later. As whenever, when this is done and when we're ready to schedule some of these things, the players might be a little bit different.
Jim, I had some concerns that finances, and I remember a discussion that you initiated some time ago about, this stuff is expensive and people need to know. And I kind of felt that way too, but the way Barbara explained it to me, this is the first baby step. And we can develop, when we find out generally what people are interested in, and then we can tailor our whatever program or programs or meetings that we put forth and accent the financing and promote it that way. So she convinced me that this is really intended to be very general and we can fill in that blank as we move ahead. I'm comfortable with that. To start all over again or have to go back for one paragraph and maybe the select board doesn't like it. I mean, they've approved this and it's going out and I think we ought to sit still. But I share your concern and we'll both keep an eye out for it as we move ahead. Make sure she does it.
Thanks, Norm.
I couldn't hear you, Norm.
What I said, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Jim. I have a hearing loss too, so it's, I agreed. I had the same concerns you did. And I spoke with Barbara about it last night. And she persuaded me that this is just the first half an inch down the path. And if you can't hear me, just tell me. and that we can design the presentations that we develop once we get this and know where we're going, and emphasize financing and credit and rebate and the other things, and the groups that put it together as we get our various focus meetings, seminars, whatever we want to call them, and then publicize the financing separately with each one of those, with a financial aspect. And she convinced me that that was a sound plan to proceed. And I think you and I just have to, if you're comfortable, we'll just make that a focus every time we take another step or a large step. Hey, let's be sure to put some information in there concerning the finances and how people can benefit and save money. Because it's, you know, and I think we'll do better. We'll do just as well. This is not going to turn things one way or the other.
I guess it's a question of what gets their attention too. You know, I mean, it's too late to do it now, but certainly, you know, while we're putting it out, such an important document that, I mean, we shouldn't let things go, and I mean, get it out there and let them be aware of some of what's going on would have been good, but we got what we got, and let's just go with it the way it is. But I agree with you, Jim. I think people understand, and they listen to, you know, Efficiency Vermont, and you know, to get their attention. I think it might help to get more of their attention. I don't know.
Well, it was designed to be more generic than anything else, just to gauge the interest out there. And one of the reasons to do that was because it is, things are changing. You know, you can go on the Efficiency Vermont site, you know, find my rebates, and it changes from month to month. So, and that's not particular to just Efficiency Vermont. They all get different, you know, new grants and, you know, new conditions for those grants and all that sort of stuff. So it was designed to find out what the town is most interested in hearing about. And it would be easy to plug in some of these familiar names in anything that publicizes the survey and tries to drive people to it, to fill it out. And, you know, and hopefully not lock us into a program that may not be around when everyone's done with the survey or looking at the results. And, or as Nora mentioned, planning some of these discussions.
Well, there's at least two sides to every question, sometimes more. So
And more.
I have some personal experiences which I will not get into here. But at some point, I may
I think you
let
shared,
the public know
I
what.
think you shared that with us, and it struck home with me. And I certainly want to see that aspect of it highlighted as we go down the line. But I think this is a good starting point to gauge community interest, and the rest will fall into place.
And the rest is the best place to have those discussions. You know, how economically feasible or, you know, advantageous are some of these things. And may not belong in the survey itself.
One of the big things that I'm finding with the changeover from fossil fuel heat or wood heat to the green concept is that there are a real shortage of people to service these things. Somehow or other, they seem to find time to get them installed. But you try to get someone to service a unit that wasn't sold by them. Just try it.
Yeah, I know you've had some personal experience there. Yeah, I'm just a little sensitive to the select board's reaction if we try to change too much now. Because I'm not sure they're I know they see the value of these programs that are out there, Efficiency Vermont, et cetera. But I'm not sure they want to be part of promoting those initially with the survey until we get some of this data back.
Well, I don't think it's all Efficiency Vermont's program. I think it's the leadership from the legislature. For one, and there may be some other forces that need to step up to the plate and do what they're expected to do too. That's all I'll say.
Okay, well, let's keep the conversation going as we get this, I'll run by what I think, the first blush of publicity, make sure we've got things in there. And we'll certainly be talking about the survey and as the results come in, and then what we do with those results and with the select board, of course. Norm.
Changing the subject just a little bit, the survey is not gonna come out until late August at the earliest. Correct?
Right, that's when I've heard some of the select board saying that would be my preference.
Well, I'm just wondering, based on what Bill said, if we can get some stuff on Facebook and maybe on the website, and just sort of alert people that, we're beginning to move as a community towards efficient energy, and keep your eye out for a survey concerning it. We want everybody to, maybe some advanced promotion to stir interest in addition to the townwide celebration. Might be something.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Good
And
idea.
then when it comes out in the circle, we can, maybe have an article with it, and you and I might put something together and bring it to the board,
Okay,
given
Yep.
our rusty skills.
I welcome that. We okay?
What's that?
Are we okay? All right. So speaking of the townwide celebration on August 27th, I'm looking for a volunteer or two to go with me to that event. And we'll have, a booth, a table, and probably tent there. We can have hard copies of the survey. We can have some materials there about the pocket park and what we have for design so far. So is anyone available on Saturday, August 27th from 10 to 2-ish? I mean, that's when the people will be there. Be a little setup and breakdown.
I could do half of that time, either the morning or like 10 to noon or noon to 2.
Oh,
My
that's good.
parents are visiting from Florida, so I don't want to the whole thing.
That what you were gonna suggest, Andy?
That I can help you on that.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm just
Okay,
looking to see, but it's a
I
Saturday.
can be
so-
available.
Yeah,
Well, there's a little question I'll talk to you about.
okay. Norm with a question mark? Okay. Bill, there's lots of tables downstairs that could be used.
Tables.
How
Yeah.
long are they? Different
6
lengths?
to 8 feet. We have a couple different sizes. Yeah. Yeah, we got plenty of tables.
But nothing less than 6 feet.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's my shortest. I think that's our shortest one.
Maybe that's an opportunity to highlight the financial aspects.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we could say just about anything we want.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, we'd be free to talk about things like that. Okay, Bill, and are there any outdoorish type chairs that are available? Or folding chairs?
We have metal folding chairs, lots of those, yeah. We don't have any like canvas ones, but. Yes, we have plenty of folding chairs.
I thought we might. Okay. Okay, well, thank you, volunteers. Did you have a question, Norm, or?
As I think about it, I'm not available.
All right. And I know Dana's not. Maybe I'll see if Sherman might be able to. Okay. And so I did make the cut for this fiscal year, so if I buy a tent and a banner, we should be fine. Okay. Down to announcements and news. You may have seen in the Herald that Act 250 will review our request that it look at the Cortina Inn and whether there's been a change of use there, change of use in regards to the Act 250 permit. So that's in the works. I have not contacted the Grandpa Knob people, the Wynn people, but I will do that. Jerry, I think, mentioned be good to have them back in since they're visiting other towns and see if there's anything new with the studies they were doing or anything else that they're doing.
this is on the wind turbine?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
When is that site visit going to be? Do you know?
well, I think they're doing it town by town.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was some question about how to publicize that because they don't want a lot of people up there at the site. So, does it fall under the open meetings law and get widely publicized or not? So let's let some of the other towns work out these details.
Okay.
The other
I
towns.
just don't want us to fall through the cracks. That's all.
Okay. Okay. So Jerry and Andy are watching on that one.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Bill, I had a conflict at the last select board meeting this week. Anything? that,
Nothing of relevance right now, no.
Okay, we're okay with the post road situation, or has that gone to litigation?
The water line?
Not the water line, the buildings that are going up
Oh, there,
on Honeybee Lane.
Honeybee Place.
Place.
The board is scheduling a hearing to they're setting aside time to hear his appeal. So they didn't discuss it last night. They said he presented a bunch of information, so they said they'll take it and they're gonna set a hearing date for another time set aside for that discussion.
And what's the basis? The appeal is on the fines?
Yes. he's objecting to paying 5 violations.
But not, but there's no discussion that the the construction's not going on.
The listers have been up there, so Howard and Marcia were able to get up there and view the whole property, so that was one of the requirements of even being considered for waiving any part of it, so the other, we talked about last night was presenting an Act 250 permit, which he did, but it's for Mendon, not for Rutland Town, so.
Huh.
That's gonna be scheduled for 5:30 on July 5th,
July 5th is the hearing about the fines.
yes.
And Howard, anything to add about, what you saw up there?
And we went up and we got to see everything. Anything we wanted to see, we got to get the information we needed.
Any surprises?
Not really. I mean, we knew of things that were happening. So no, I guess the only one surprise might have been is they put in a storage unit and which we knew about, but then he put in some additional storage units, but they're the portable trailers, they're a personal property type of thing. It's not real estate. But that's the one thing that we picked up on that we weren't sure. There was a little a garden shed that he put up as a 8x12 2-story building with the electricity, water, and different things. That was new to us.
And were any of these structures included in a building permit? And the people putting up these buildings say, what about the building permit? They didn't know about it?
I never had any discussions with contractors. It was only with Nick.
And they knew about the building permit? They didn't.
He said when he was here that he had asked about he asked about something early on and was told that he didn't need a permit for anything, and he still didn't need a permit for anything. So he just never checked again. So despite having been told he does, so yeah.
When he first started several years ago, we didn't have permits back at that time, and so we just, when we knew something was going on, we tracked him down. In fact, I remember calling him and talking to him, and he said, I said, we need to get up, to appraise and so forth, and he said, you don't need to get into buildings. So yeah, I said, yes, we do. He said, well, Mendon doesn't have to go into the buildings when they appraise things. I said, well, I don't care what Mendon does, but we have to do it, and that was it. So, but back at that time, there were no building permits when he first started. And his reasoning now is he said he didn't know there was building permits. Well, he does know, because we sent him some. When we saw something going on, we sent him a permit. And so nothing happened, but we sent a couple of permits to him. Now he understands, I think, that going forward, he's got to get a permit.
Yeah. So we'll have to keep that in mind when we roll out whatever we roll out with this ordinance and permit, and you try to do enough publicity to make a difference there with some of these folks who don't think there's anything required.
I think the penalties was really got the attention here, and it'll get the attention of the whole town here. I mean, if people realize that there's a penalty for not doing a permit, that in itself is gonna mean something. And because it's never been enforced before. So I guess let's see where it goes. This is the start of it.
It's too bad we don't have a newspaper reporting that kind of thing anymore, because that would get a little bit of press and people would have,
Well, what kind of,
The reporter was here last night.
really?
Here more often than not. This meeting was really where we got into any details about this at all. It's been talked about without getting into specifics a few times, but last night was the first night that really got into specifics of it, so I'm not sure. It usually takes 2 or 3 days for articles to show up
Yeah.
anyway, so we might, I don't know, depends if Keith finds it worthy or not. So.
Well, there's also the fact that the fines haven't been imposed yet.
Correct.
Right? We just notified.
We've issued him basically a invoice that says, here's what you owe us for fines. And there's a penalty, like if you don't pay, so we've agreed that we'll hold off on charging interest on it while we review it, but if they find you owe it, then you owe it, that's it. So,
Yeah. And the reporter may wait to see what happens at the hearing as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
On what's decided, so. But good point.
So that was to my point of when we started talking about new ordinances about, we really need to talk about the enforcement part of any of these first, because that's always gonna be the challenging thing is the people that are gonna do it are just gonna do it. It's people that aren't gonna do it, how are we gonna handle that? So this is kind of our first real objection to the permit, so.
And that permit just goes back 5 years or so?
I kind of created it.
Yeah, maybe even less than that, right?
It would be less than that,
Yeah.
about 4 years. 4 years.
Okay.
That's been the problem because we've never had permits. I guess we did many years ago, and then up until maybe the early 90s, I guess is when they stopped. There's some issue and they stopped. And so probably since 1990, we have not had any permits. So, everybody's kind of gotten used to it. A lot of people will call and ask. They used to call and ask about permits, and no, we don't have permits. Now we have them. So it's now it's a learning exercise. People gotta get the word out that we have permits. And
why did they drop off?
why did they drop off?
Yeah, why
Well-
why was this period where there was no permits?
Well, it was an issue. Initially, there was a fee for permits, and it was based on your assessment and so forth. I believe there was a challenge, and I'm not sure if it was the Diamond Run Mall or something. There was a challenge that came forth. And as a result of that, the town paid back many of these permit fees. Anybody who had paid a permit fee, all they had to do was to come to the town and ask for it. In Dick Del Bianco, I think it was some $40,000 or so in fees that were paid back to everybody. It was a illegal issue.
So it was the mall, and I think the fee was based upon square footage.
Could have been, yeah.
And I think the
Mhm.
permit fee for the mall was some big number. Well, obviously a big number, and they challenged it and won. So that's when, if Howard's right, it kind of just went away. And there really wasn't a clear reason why it never kind of got modified. So it was because we didn't have, I talked to Kevin Brown a little bit about this a while ago. He said, because we didn't have zoning, we couldn't charge the fees we were charging. So the building permit got kind of tied up into that. And he says, you can't really charge for a permit without zoning. Like there was it all got tied back to that. And so they came up with this permit tracking ordinance, which allowed the informational building permit to be created as a way to kind of bridge that divide. So we have this permit and we, really it's basically no cost because we want people to do it because we want the information more than the money. The information is more valuable than any fee would be, so.
So the ordinance is not that old either. And
I can check to see if I have the adoption date on it. I'm not sure if I do.
I think I thought I saw 1979 on it, but I think that was the statute. Statute number. And not the datum. it being adopted.
But regardless, the ordinance itself needs to be updated, like we talked about, like it references like municipal traffic tickets, I think is what it says in there. So, I mean, certainly, there's value in kind of creating some of the new ones, but we also talked about going back and fixing some of the existing ones, like our subdivision one. There's a lot of language needs to get cleaned up in there. So, we do that a lot more too, and so, there's value in fixing that so we can get it right going down the road too. So and it
Right.
references the zoning in that ordinance, which have to come out. So
Right.
And the mall was built in 1994, so it's been like 28 years. That nothing much went on until just the last 4 years ago. It's just everything stopped. But they had permits. I remember seeing some of them. They were turned into the office, and there was a fee that went with them, but they had a book and kept them there. But it was the challenge that ended it all. And again, like I said, a lot of money was paid back to. And there was a lot of building. There was an enormous amount of building that went on from the 1960s through 1990s. I mean, these developments in town, they just blossomed. There was a huge amount of construction, so there was a zillion permits that had to be.
Okay, good history. Good to know that. Okay. Let's move on to the minutes from June 2nd.
Oh, so I know I'm not on the agenda. Do you want me to give like a quick update on trails that
Oh,
just
yeah,
happened the last
sorry.
couple days? No, that's
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead. Go
Do
ahead.
you-
I should have asked.
Oh, that's okay. Just really quick on Tuesday, at the select board meeting, the town approved, the permits for the Northwood Park bike trails. So we're planning to submit those the next few days, have them signed and submitted. So the mountain bike trails at Northwood are moving forward. And then last night, the Velomont Trail group, we met with the Economic and Community Development Committee for the Board of Aldermen at the city, and with DPW about having the trail go through the Rutland City property next to Northwood. That's been the last few months we've been working on that. And the DPW suggested another option that wouldn't have the trail go through the water treatment facility area for security concerns. They suggested that we have the trail go still on city property, but north of Mendenbrook. And so that they would give permission for the trail to go through there. The only thing is we would need to build a bridge, a significant one, because of the bank full with expanding so much after Irene and with flood concerns. But it sounds like the city Board of Aldermen is willing to help with permitting, grants, that kind of thing for that bridge. So that's kind of where we're at, because that was a major pinch point on getting the trail from Mendon to Northwood Park. So kind of,
Would it have?
Yep.
With that location, I'm trying to picture where that bridge would be. Would there be a crossing of Route 4 to get to that bridge?
No, and that's the main thing that we're trying to avoid. So the trail through Mendon is pretty easy because it's all national forest land north of Route 4. So from Old Turnpike Road, or the very end of it, through national forest land to close to the Stone Hollow area in Mendon, which is off of Meadow Lake Drive. And we're still working on that. There may be one or two private landowners we would need to reach out to, and the Mendon group is working on that with us. But once we get to Meadow Lake, the Rutland Town volunteers were kind of focusing on from there, how do we get to Northwood Park? And then once we get to the park, we can take existing trails and sidewalk to Route 7, and hopefully cross, this will be several years in the future. So hopefully there'll be a crossing there and sidewalk continuing. But it's really from the Stone Hollow area to, through the city property area to Northwood Park. That was the main, that we've really been focusing on.
Right, because there were some sticky issues there.
Right.
Yeah.
So it sounds like at least the city is working with us, and we kind of left it open. They gave us permission to check out the area. We will need to talk to some other landowners in the area, private and Green Mountain Power. So the actual bridge would be, at least what the city proposed, would be on Green Mountain Power, and it's near the confluence of Mendon Brook and East Creek. So that's also definitely not an ideal solution, but at least it's another option that we're looking at.
Okay, good work. Good work.
Mhm.
And the
Yes.
mountain bike trail in Northwood, that is now ready for construction, or what's the next
No,
step?
we're submitting, so the Act 250 permit application, we end up needing a wetland permit. There's one area that just dips into wetlands as it's proposed. But the wetland ecologist for the state reviewed it and said, we should get a permit, no problem. But we needed the 20-page individual permit. And then the erosion control permit, because there's going to be more than an acre of earth disturbance. So those three are going to be submitted together to Act 250 and the state. So it'll probably still be a few months before we actually get the permit to do the construction, but hopefully by late summer, fall, we can get the contractor that the town is planning to hire, will at least be able to get started on it. And this is all through Mike Rowe. So I've been helping Mike and Andy McMillan, who's another mountain biker and town volunteer. We've both been working together with Mike to get these permits together. And we sent it about 2 weeks ago to the select board to review. And then we went to the meeting just to answer any questions that they had. But they said it looked good and that we should move forward with it.
Pursue the permits.
Right,
Get the
exactly.
permit.
Yep.
All right. Excellent, Mary Beth.
And I noticed there's a Rutland Herald story about the Velemont Trail and the Rutland City meeting, if you wanted to check that out. It was in the paper today for more details.
Okay. All right. You got more gas in the tank to keep this going?
Right. Well, I think a
Okay.
lot of the work is done.
Okay.
Probably put in about 60 hours of the permits. I don't think I'm going to volunteer again to do
For a
that
while.
on my own time for a while. Yeah. But you know how they snowball, and it ends up being a lot more than you think when you first volunteer. But
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for reminding me that we should check in with you. All right, now down to the minutes of June 2nd. Norm.
I had a couple small comments. In the new business section, the applicant was, or the town resident was Josh Shepherd. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay, before we get into the corrections, let's make a motion to approve them.
All right. I move we approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, now discussion.
Under new business on the first page, paragraph 8, it says, it was suggested to Mr. Butler. Unless I'm missing something, shouldn't it be Mr. Shepherd?
Yeah, in both 8 and 6.
Yes,
Butler,
I missed
shows
that,
up.
yes, 8 and
Mhm.
6, okay. Am I? And on the next page, old business, paragraph 2, I think there's a couple words missing. I think what was intended should be the biggest challenge seems to be the lack of general awareness rather than the general awareness.
Yeah, okay, to be the
Mhm.
lack of general awareness of town residents, that it exists.
Of the permit, I think of the permit requirement is what it should say. Is that what? I mean, if I read the intention of the first part of the sentence, it seems to be is a lack of awareness that we're talking about, because
Yep,
Says that.
If we strike it and put in the building notification ordinance, I think then it would make that sentence a whole lot clearer.
lack of awareness of the building notification ordinance.
The biggest challenge seems to be a lack of general awareness of Rutland Town residents not knowing the building notification ordinance exists.
and we were talking about the ordinance at that point, not the permit.
The whole thing's about the ordinance, the whole section's about the ordinance.
Because it's subcommittee report on building notification ordinance, as I read it on the top. But, and up, any other change, they're fine.
Yeah, that seems to make sense.
Seems that,
Anything else, Norm?
that's all I had.
Did anyone else have anything? Norm, are you willing to accept that change?
Yeah.
Just to be sure,
Yes,
just to be doubly sure. And
Yes,
Andy, okay. Okay, all those in favor of the minutes as corrected for June 2nd, please say aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at this point unless there's anything else.
when's the next meeting?
It would
Almost.
be June,
July
2nd.
14th.
When?
July
Yeah,
14th.
right. Hit the right month.
July 14, right?
July 14th?
Oh,
Yeah.
Up there,
I can't see it.
yeah. July 14th, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Did someone make? Okay. A second? Okay, we're adjourned.